Welcome to Cardinals Countdown. Craig Fouie, Colin Harmon sitting in for Puppet Coach, who is off getting ready for Die Hard, A Christmas Story. You can check that out at Puppet Players, allpuppetplayers.com. That starts Friday night. But in the meantime, Colin, we're coming off a Cardinals win 23-13 in Seattle on the road.
Hey, I know it's a hard place to play, but that's a place where the Cardinals have had a lot of success over the years. And this Seahawks team, what is wrong with them?
Isn't that crazy?
Pete Carroll walked out of his press conference last night. Russell Wilson doesn't look like himself. I mean, they are a mess. But hey, we're here to talk about the Cardinals.
Yeah.
The best team in the NFL through 11 weeks. How about that?
They are amazing. Big Ray Orozco says, "Rise up, Red Sea." Thank you for that, Big Ray. Appreciate that. Listen, they are – we're not going to read Shauna's. But no, they're 9-2, which is totally awesome. And they went up there, and I think they're, 5-2 at Lumen Field in Seattle over the last 7 games?
That's and honestly, good. that was a game that shouldn't have been that close yesterday. You know,
yeah.
If Prater makes his field goals, which they got a new long snapper in there, so I wonder how much that kind of just throws off the rhythm because those guys just work so close together all week long. Still, it's no excuse for missing kicks, but Prater's been Mr. Automatic.
Yeah. Big Ray Roscoe says, "Yes, best in the West, baby." We like
the West, the East, everywhere.
Everywhere. Yeah. Best record in the NFL. Yeah. Hey, and the one thing too, Colin, we've talked about since yesterday, and that is the fact that they are 6-0 on the road.
That's unbelievable.
Right.
I mean, it is hard to win in the NFL anywhere, but especially on the road. And when you look at, they're dominating teams. I mean, third team in NFL history to win their first 6 road games, all by double digits.
Wow.
They're a plus 101 in point differential on the road. That's absurd.
It's crazy. I'm just excited because, and all you Cardinal fans know how long we've suffered. I mean, it's been since 2015 in the NFC Championship game that season with Bruce Arians and Carson Palmer. And so now here we are in Cliff Kingsbury, Kyler Murray's 3rd season, and they're 9-2. And the last 3 games, they went 2-1 without Kyler with Colt McCoy at quarterback.
That's the most impressive of it. And those 2 wins coming against division teams, San Francisco and Seattle. So you get those games, you're not really expecting that. I mean, it's obviously, candy on top of everything, but right. The fact that you can get those guys healthy and still win 2 divisional games, you're 4-0 in the division. And now they're got a game and a half clear of the Rams in the NFC West. I think, kicking your feet up on the couch for the next week is going to feel a little that much better, knowing the position that they find themselves in right now.
Mary Jo says, "Go Cardinals, go." And we love that one. That's awesome. And then Dominique says, "It's been too long and we should have had rings on our team fingers." Yeah, no kidding. I mean, that's the thing, Dominique. I mean, think about that Super Bowl against the Steelers, and it came down to the last drive by the Steelers. The Cardinals up with a nice lead and just a couple of minutes to go, and the Steelers go down and beat us. But that's old. That's a long time ago. We're talking about this year with the Super Bowl in Los Angeles at SoFi Stadium. Wouldn't that be fun?
Fouie, we kind of touched on it last night, but you look at the league, and there's so much parity. And, I mean, what team is actually good? Yeah. And I ask that because you look at the Cardinals now, and there was a big question mark as to, are these guys legit earlier in the season? And the fact that they're here now and they've done this without Kyler and without DeAndre Hopkins, you look at the rest of the league, you thought the Rams might start to really pick up steam. They took a big step backwards. Packers lose, Cowboys lose, Bills and Titans looked absolutely dreadful yesterday.
Yeah.
You start looking with Kyler and D-Hop, the Cardinals really are the cream of the crop in the NFL.
They really are. Judy Wood says, "I'm a fan, win or lose, but hashtag winning is awesome." There's no question about it. Judy, I agree with you, man. It's been a long time. Dominique says the AZ Cardinals, that's who. That's pretty cool. I mean, listen, the thing is, when you looked at this team, and they've gotten incrementally better in Cliff's time here and Kyler's time here. And if you look back, Colin, we've talked a little bit about this in the sports office, but you look back, and just a few years ago, they had drafted Josh Rosen, number 10 overall. They had hired Steve Wilkes. That lasted 1 season, And the team decided to go a different direction after 1 year, paid that entire coaching staff, got rid of Josh Rosen, sent him to Miami, and went ahead and hired Cliff. And everybody was shaking their heads going, what are they doing? This guy hasn't won at Texas Tech. What are they doing with him? And
well,
now
I tell you what, for not many general managers have a chance to stick around and get a redo after a big swing and a miss like that, coach and quarterback.
Yeah.
And so to get the redo, and, Cliff's answer today when asked, hey, do you feel some kind of vindication now? Well, all the people that questioned you, about being a coach worthy of being in the NFL, that you belong here. And he says, no, I don't think about that too much. But, for my family members that have believed in me the whole time,
yeah,
I'm just glad that they don't have to hear everybody call me a dumbass every single week. That's great. And it's true. He's earned the respect now. And
yes,
I was a doubter 100%. Just last year, there was a lot of games that I thought Cliff mismanaged at the end, and that cost them in close games.
Yeah.
They haven't been in a whole lot of close games this season, but it's hard to argue with the results. And Cliff's play calling has been phenomenal this year. And I think it's just everybody's kind of, just the maturation. We've talked about that, Kyler in year 3, and just everybody has fully bought into this now. And it took 3 years to get here, but now you're seeing the fruits of that.
April says first string, second string, they are just a great team and great coaching. And I love that, April. Thank you for sharing that, because that's the thing. I mean, you look at all the injuries this team's had, Colin. I mean, the guys, J.J. Watt, the guy they brought in for leadership and his ability, and he was creating a mess on the interior defensive line until he got hurt, and he's been out. Chase Edmonds is now out with a high ankle sprain, missed the last couple of games. Kyler Murray's missed 3 games. DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, the list goes on, and you got to wonder how good this team really is, when they're winning with backups.
Well, and I found this interesting because, piling onto the injuries with Rodney Hudson, we saw how much of a loss that was for the limited time that he was out. But yesterday it was the 9th different starting offensive line that the Cardinals have had this season through 11 games.
Yeah.
And it's the 7th in the last 9 games, just rotating guys in and out. And they haven't really skipped a beat. And when you don't have Kyler Murray back there, and still, I mean, Colt McCoy's chucking it for almost 350 yards.
Yeah.
On the road.
44 passing attempts for Colt McCoy. That's crazy. That's crazy.
It's insane.
Yeah. In cold weather. I mean, it wasn't exactly freezing, but it was still in the low 40s, mid 40s. And that's kind of cold for Arizonans to go up there and play in that.
And a Texan. Question.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was just fun to see all this stuff. And obviously they're 9-2, off to one of the best starts through 11 games that they've ever had. And to go out there and let's mention AJ Green too, because he had some incredible catches yesterday. I mean, there were times when we've been questioning AJ, right? He didn't turn around in the Packers game, the Panthers game, that he failed to turn around again. Yesterday, he made some pretty darn good catches when he needed to.
He turned around on him. How about that?
He saw him.
No, but you got to tip your cap. As much grief as Steve Keim gets over the years, and a lot of it has been well-deserved.
Yes.
He hit some serious home runs just on these. The draft is one thing, and it's still kind of waiting on that. But in terms of these free agents and these 30-something-year-old free agents, J.J. Watt, even though he's hurt, he still makes a big impact.
Yeah.
Just in that locker room. You got James Conner, who's made an unbelievable difference to this football team in the physicality and in the red zone and the short yardage, something that they struggled with last year. A bunch of these guys trading for Rodney Hudson, bringing in AJ Green. I mean, he's hitting a Hall of Fame batting average right now on signing some of those guys.
I got to tell you, I took a deep breath when I saw Rodney Hudson slow to get up in that game yesterday. I'm like, no, please, not Rodney Hudson. We need that center. We need that experience. We need that leadership in the offensive line. So I'm glad that he stayed in the game and played. And of course, we're not going to know anything now because a couple of guys will talk tomorrow. Vance will talk tomorrow, and then they're off until next Monday. So, and it's kind of fun because you had aired this at 6, just Cliff talking about learning about what to do in a bye week, right?
Yeah, I mean, obviously their struggles in the second half of last season are well documented, and a team that looked like they were going to the playoffs and somehow missed out. He said they took a ton of time to study what teams have done that have been successful after the bye, how they've handled the bye week. So they're mimicking that schedule this week. What that looks like, he didn't share with all of us. He just said they're going to be focused, for the first half of the week before Thanksgiving on football stuff. And then he'll let guys get out of here and put their feet up, see some family, and do all that. But listen, this Cardinals team getting through 11 weeks, that's a long stretch without a bye.
It is a long stretch.
The injuries are going to pile up at any level. And, for them to be in this position and a well-earned bye at this point and hopefully get some guys healthy for this stretch run, it's, you look at their schedule, it's doable, man. The Bears are a mess. Lions are a mess. You got the Rams at home on Monday Night Football right here on ABC 15. I think the Rams are going to have a lot to say about that performance that the Cardinals handed them in LA earlier in the season. But, there's some very winnable games, so the Cardinals can keep their foot on the gas here.
The other guy I want to talk about, and you brought him up before, that's James Conner, what he's brought to that backfield. And obviously with Chase Edmonds out and Eno Benjamin kind of stepping in to fill a little bit of that void, James Conner's been a stud, man. He has just continued to just put his head in the middle of things and just lower his shoulder and go after people.
And it's crazy to think that the Steelers just let him walk.
Yeah.
For what he's doing right now. And the Steelers, they need all the help they could get. So, it's awesome. Obviously, his backstory has been talked about a ton. And for him to even be playing at this level, let alone the caliber that he's playing at, is incredibly impressive. But it's awesome to see. And it's funny because you talk to him and he's so quiet and reserved. And it just, you have to poke and prod to get anything out of him. But then you watch him on the sidelines and in the game, and he's one of the most fiery guys out there. And all the Cardinals talk about it. That guy kind of is our heartbeat for a lot of things. He gets this team going. And they've got a lot of those guys. I think that's the biggest difference, Fooey, from last year.
Yeah.
And they made a point of going out and getting the JJ Watts and the AJ Greens and the James Connors, veteran guys. But that's where we're seeing this impact. The production's been great, but that's why this team has bounced back from certain things or been able to keep it going for this long, is because of those guys that they didn't have last year.
Well, and even the ugly performance last week against the Panthers a week ago, where they just didn't even show up, to go to Seattle and dominate that game, over 40 minutes of time of possession, and just the way they controlled the clock, controlled that game. It shouldn't have been 23-13 as it turned out, but they just dominated. So that was nice, because that leadership, as you just talked about, is stepping up and saying, look, we can't afford another one of those Carolina Panther games.
No, and I mean, that was complete domination in Seattle. And you bring up the time of possession. Interesting little nugget. As the second lowest time of possession for the Seahawks in the Pete Carroll, Russell Wilson era. A team that runs the ball down your throat and kind of plays out of play action and holds the ball and plays good defense. I mean, that's not Seattle anymore. And the Cardinals played that way. They kind of handed the Seahawks their own medicine in that game up in Seattle.
Yep. John Rather says Cardinals seem to find players that other teams don't want. And that happens with everybody. I mean, they're trying to, let's talk about the quarterback situation too. What happened today? The Cardinals made a move to find a backup quarterback.
Yeah. It looks like they signed Trace McSorley after the Ravens practice squad as their third string quarterback. So it would seem that Chris Streveler's days as a Cardinal have come to an end.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, you don't want to see that happen to anybody, but at the same time, Streveler's had more opportunities than probably any other third stringer in the NFL. Yeah. And we've seen what that's looked like on the field. And I think a lot of Cardinals fans are like, okay, moving on.
Trace McSorley is a guy out of Penn State, and he was drafted a number of years ago. But, listen, he's on the practice squad. He's coming back in here now. So at least it may be an upgrade from Streveler, I would think.
I mean, I hope we don't ever have to talk about a third-string quarterback. Like,
correct.
I hope we're done with Colt McCoy, and I mean that in the most respectful way. Like,
right, you
did a phenomenal job. Yeah. 2-1 is an absolute gift in a 3-game stretch, but I hope we don't have to see him play another snap this season.
Well, if
Kyler the rest of the way.
Yeah, Kyler should be healthy now. Get through the bye week. He should be ready to go. Michael Moreno says Seattle has fallen. They won't be relevant for a few years. You agree with that?
I mean, it's hard to argue because they're in a ugly spot right now. They don't got a lot of draft picks. The Jamal Adams trade has not worked out whatsoever.
Yep.
But you got to think, Seattle's they're 3-7 right now, and that's the worst they've been in 12 seasons of Pete Carroll. Russell Wilson was out for a long period of time. Chris Carson's been out for a long period of time. And don't forget, we look at the beginning of the year, the Seahawks were the NFC West favorites to win the division.
That's right.
They were supposed to be the best team in the best division in football.
Yeah.
And obviously, it hasn't panned out that way.
No.
So I'm hesitant to say the Seahawks are 6 feet under moving forward. They are this season. It's
3-7. Yeah, 3-7.
It's over. They're not coming back. But we talked about it Saturday night. What does that look like in Seattle right now? Do they start over and go? I don't know.
Well, you've got some players on big contracts that are eating up a large percentage of their salary cap, so they've got to make some changes. I don't know if Russ Wilson is one of those guys, but certainly there are some other positions on that team that are eating up a bunch of salary cap. So that should be interesting. Galen says if they win the Super Bowl, they better give Larry Fitzgerald a ring for putting up with them when they sucked all these years. Oh, Galen, that's awesome. Larry was in that Super Bowl, by the way. You might remember that. He caught that big pass from Kurt Warner to put him up late in the game, and then, of course, they ended up losing. But
sign him to like a one-day contract.
Yeah, exactly.
Like hold a bag of balls or something and give him a ring.
Dominique wants to know when will Murray come back. I think he comes back against the Bears just through the bye week. Get him through. That'll be 37 days. I think I saw, Colin, 37 days from the Packers game until he gets back against the Bears in, a week and a half, 2 weeks now. So that's a long rest.
That's a long time. And there's going to be rust. There's no way there can't not be. That's a long stretch of game speed. Luckily, they play the Bears their first week, so you give him a week to kind of find his gear again and get ready for that Monday night football game.
And it's on the road.
You don't have to score a lot of points against the Bears to win. So
and it's on the road where they've been outstanding, right?
Now I just got to figure out how to win at home. That's like the biggest complaint of this team right now.
Yeah,
is why they can't win at home.
Listen to Lee Rosenthal here. Best Cardinals team I've ever seen. Been season ticket holder since '88 when they got here.
Bless you, Lee. That is a lot of lean years, man.
That is a lot of lean years. I'll tell you what, man, oh man. I used to announce for the team and on the PA, and I used to do radio. And that, Lee, I'm with you. It's been some lean years there, buddy. He says, "Go Birds." Hey guys, we want to thank you for joining us here on this Monday night. We believe the puppet will be back next week. At least that's our understanding at this point. But we certainly, Colin and I certainly thank you for joining and sharing your comments here on Facebook. They're always great to see what you have to say, and we appreciate you guys. Cardinals 9-2 heading into a bye week. So
great time to be a Cardinals fan.
Have a good night.